I've done behavior for 26 years now, 27 years, close to 30 years. It's what I love. I've always done special ed because it's what I love. They're the best kids ever. So I started out as a behavior specialist. I was in Carrollton for 15 years. I was at a middle school, and then I'm just starting on my 11th year here at Region 10. So that's kind of my background. All those really tough kids, those are my babies. I love them. That's just my passion. Okay, one more. I promise I'll make this painless, but I like to share. So this is my mother. She just had her 80th birthday last year. She's 80, I know. My brother, Michael, his daughter Lily, my kids John Michael and Caitlin. John Michael just graduated from Tech in May. Yes, I'm so happy. My daughter Caitlin is a senior at Rockwall High School. She just decided last night, she just clicked the button, she's going to University of Arkansas.
Woo!
So, I know, she literally decided that last night. My husband David, my dog Daisy. I just like to let y'all know a little bit of how I am. I always tell my teachers, share some stuff of yourself, make some connections. Okay. So, when I was asked to do this, I'm not going to lie, y'all, I was a little scared. I don't do many parent trainings. I am a parent, but it's hard. I don't feel like I have I don't know all the answers because it's hard. That's the bottom line. But what I'm going to talk to you today about is just some strategies you can use at home, some things maybe you can really have some practical use with. At the very end of the presentation, and y'all are going to get a copy of it, there's some links for some really good resources, just for printouts and things you can use. And there's even one that you can sign up and it offers some parenting classes. So just to give y'all a little bit more stuff to work with. But what I want to hear from you guys, so that I can make this more meaningful, what are some of your challenges? What are some of the things that you really struggle with that maybe you were like, I hope she talks about this? And I know that's the way to get the room really quiet. I know, I've done this too many times. Anything in particular, and if not, that's okay. I never force anyone.
So one of the challenges we face is getting our child to focus on what's important and the task that is he has got to do before going to school, after coming back from school, and then getting him onto the bed on time. That's a challenge.
So that's about everybody in here, isn't it? Yes, ma'am.
We have a 6th grade grandson, and trying to sort out when he doesn't, of course, want to work on anything at home. That's the baseline. And so as we're working with him, he will become frustrated, and it's hard to sort out drama from real anxiety and frustration.
No, I can imagine. It's tough. I'm telling you, it's tough.
Yeah, and both of these are applicable to me. Plus, my son is 9 years old. He's showing some signs of coming to that age, and we have been experiencing like very unexpected tantrums. He talks at a pitch that is unbearable all the time. Every minute he's awake. So, and that kind of causes stress. There is use of bad words that has been introduced out of the blue, and like we have no idea how to deal with that.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Oh my gosh, look at y'all all participating.
I love it.
I'll freak out.
Yes.
Yeah, I would want my son to share no, like whatever happened at school, like he's not, like, he won't share anything from school.
So let me tell you something. That's normal. Don't panic, because neither will mine. I mean, and that's the thing. Just because you're parents of students who are with special ed, y'all, they're all kids. Everybody's kids. It's all, to some degree, they're going to do all the same things that normal kids do, because you know what? They're normal kids. They're kids. They just have some additional challenges that they're working with, but they're all kids. And so at the end, I'll talk about it as I go through, but like hearing from home, there are some resources I have where maybe you can work with the teacher and do a note home. I don't know if you get notes home from your teacher, but a lot of times, a lot of the kiddos I work with, have a system where they work with the teachers and there's a folder and they send notes home every day of how the day has gone and what's going on. So a lot of that, you can get in those resources as well. So hopefully as we go through this, I am not, y'all, I don't even feel qualified to do this, but it's all learn as you go. Have you noticed everything is like trial and error, and what works one time doesn't necessarily work the next time? And so you have to get really creative. But as we go through, hopefully I can help y'all with just a few things. Okay.
And Michelle, I'll throw out there too some things that y'all didn't mention that I'm thinking in my head. I have a senior in high school that has autism and ADHD and defiant behavior, and just as a little, I remember just the no, and then now as the older, I hear a lot of, well, I don't want to do that. Well, how are you going to make me do that? And so just a lot of defiant behavior that, I really want to be smart as a parent and say, well, because I told you so. And that does not work.
Doesn't work.
That does not
always,
work.
how's that working for
That
you?
is not working for me at all. And so, but each stage is a learning and growing process. And so we are so thankful that you're here and learning and growing through this. So you might hear a strategy today that you say, I don't need that now. And then 6 months, you're like, yeah, I need that strategy today.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that's the thing, y'all. I can't wave a magic wand. If I could, man, I'd be a millionaire and I wouldn't be standing up here. I'd be on an island somewhere living my best life. But I think the biggest thing, and it's like I'm preaching to myself too, is consistency. Consistency. And that's, y'all, that is the hardest thing for me to do, is to be consistent. Because
Exactly.
some days, y'all, we're tired. And it's hard, and I told them before we started, there were some days with my kids, I'd be like, you know what, get a Pop-Tart, go upstairs and leave me alone, good night. I mean, it's okay, y'all, we're not perfect, you don't have to be superhuman people. And the thing is, y'all have, some of y'all's kids that you have are even more challenges on top of what's the typical normal kid. There's not a normal kid, there's not, it doesn't exist. But just, why do we need these supports? Again, you want to foster and create that positive family environment where you're checking in with your students. Those communication skills, just like you said, you want to kind of know what's going on. And how many times do you ask your kids, how's your day? Good. What'd you do today?
I don't know.
Stuff. It's like trying to grab something out of it. But some strategies I found with that, I would be more specific. When I would tuck my son in at night, I would say, what was your favorite part about today? So even just engaging with those little bitty questions, sometimes instead of saying, how did your day go? What was the favorite thing that happened to you today? Or what was the hardest thing for you today? Just kind of navigating through those and having more of those open-ended questions where they can't just say yes or no. It's tough though, y'all. I'm right there with you. I get it. But that consistency, that predictability, that's the best thing you can give them, is just consistency. Okay. So we're going to talk about positive reinforcement, setting those clear expectations, which y'all, that's hard too. How many times have you said, this is what you're going to do, and it doesn't happen? And sometimes you just want to give in and say, okay. But just setting those clear expectations, sticking to it, having those family meetings where you talk about what are your expectations for our family? What do you want from me? What do you need from me? And then again, this is what I need from you. But I think a lot of times, if you'll sit down, if you'll talk it through, maybe even write out a few goals with your kiddos and have them sign it. You know why? It's just like we do respect agreements in the classrooms. Like in the classrooms, you'll have the students come together and decide what expectations that you're going to have in the classroom. But if your kids aren't a part of that, they're not going to buy into it. So ask them those hard questions. What do you need from me? What do you need me to do to make things better for you at our house? Okay, the positive behavior. So we're going to talk about, go ahead and click, rewards and incentives. So I would do this a lot with my kids. Have something for them to work for. What is something they need? What is something they like? What is something they can work for? And set some of those goals. And in the end, I have some charts. Okay, so let's talk about consequences. There's no easy way. There's no easy way to do this. So what do you think about consequences? Do kids need to have consequences? Absolutely. They need to have consequences. If they don't have consequences, we're setting them up for a lot of failure, right? And here's the other thing I've heard a lot in schools recently is, don't, and I'm not saying y'all do this, but what we hear, don't tell my kid no. Y'all. Thank you.
No, I didn't hear what you said.
Don't tell we can't tell this kid no. If you tell this kid no, they're gonna have a total complete meltdown. Y'all, if you don't tell your own children no, they're not gonna know how to navigate in the real world. Okay? Because the fact of the matter is you're gonna be told no. How many times have y'all been told no in your lives? That grows you, right? And we can't be this everybody wins a trophy kind of mentality. Because you know what? We don't get everything we want. We don't get a lot of things we want. And how many times are y'all told no? But the thing about consequences is they have to be meaningful. Your kiddo has got to connect what they said, what they did, and how it affected everybody else around them. And if we're not teaching our own children that, we're missing the mark. Because a lot of times, they don't understand. Think about it. When you ask your own child, why did you do that? What do they say? You're like, why? Why'd you do that?
I don't know.
Because guess what? They really don't know. They are not cognitively developed enough to figure out and navigate the impact and consequences that their words, their thoughts, and their behaviors had on everybody else around them. So it's our job to help them fill in the blanks and make those connections. But just like everybody's individualized, and I would tell our teachers at school, a lot of the teachers at school would be like, if a student does something, they're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna call your mother. We're gonna call her right now. And for some kids, that's like, don't you dare call my parents. Because that's the worst thing on earth that could happen to them. But you know what some students are doing? Go ahead, I don't care. Here's the phone, I'll dial it for you. So that wouldn't work for some students. So it has to be meaningful. You've got to have consequences that are meaningful, that mean something to them. And it doesn't necessarily have to be you're grounded for 3 months. It's not necessarily always meaningful. It's helping them make right what they did wrong, more than it is about the consequence or the punishment. Does that make sense? So that they can make those connections. And instead of asking them why, if you ask them why, you're always going to get the, Here's some other questions you can ask them instead. What happened? What happened? They may not can tell you why they did it, but they can tell you what happened. What were you thinking about at the time? What were you thinking about at the time when that happened? What have you thought about since this incident happened? Who do you think this affected when you did? Who do you think it affected when you left the garage door open and the dog ran out in the street or out in the neighborhood? Or when you left, when you didn't put up the dishes? Or who do you think that affected when you left all your dishes out on the sink in the counter? Who did that affect? And the most important thing is, how are you gonna make it right? I'll help you, but how can we fix it? How can we make it right for everybody else here? Because if you ask them those questions, you're gonna get a lot more out of them than if you ask them why. So you're not, I know why I did it.
And I feel like that is the consequence. That is the teaching. So if you're saying you didn't do the dishes, the consequence is as having the conversation of saying, when I would talk to my students, I would tell them, whatever the behavior was, if you could go back in time and do it over, what would you do differently? So like, you're taking them out of the experience and let's just rewind, and what would you do differently? And to me, that is the discipline, the teaching, telling, I'm gonna do that. I think that's a great idea. I get to then give positive reinforcement for them coming up with something. Or if they say, I don't know what to do, I thought I was doing it right or whatever, can I offer you some suggestions? And was always what I said, you don't have to like my suggestion. You can tell me no to everything. Kids love to say that. No, I don't like that, I don't like that. I said, if you don't want my suggestion, then come up with your own suggestion that we're both in agreement on. So with anything, and the calling the parents, that was my favorite thing to do in this situation. I wanna call your mom or your dad, and you get to tell me what I get to say. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to make the repair, to say, you know what? This behavior happened, we talked about it, this is the plan, the next time this happens, and I get to tell your parent, you have a plan. We made a mistake, and we have a new plan, and I'm proud of you for handling and coming up and having that engaging conversation. And to me, that is the meaningful part, and I don't feel like it needs to go beyond that a lot of the times. And
No, I agree. If we can get to, because what's your end goal? What's your end goal? Begin with, you've got to think, what is my end goal? To have them in the room grounded for a week, or to teach them a better way? So again, those consequences have to be meaningful to them. For those of y'all that have more than one child, you know how different kids can be. And you know what works with one of your kids doesn't necessarily work with the other kid. So again, you have to be flexible, but I think that's huge. It doesn't have to be punitive to work.
And I heard you say change the behavior. That answer and response is accurate with any level child. Whether you have a preschooler, whether you have a nonverbal high schooler, what are you trying to do? Whether you're able to have a full engaging conversation with your child and really delve in, or whether maybe you're using a communication device with a child, you're trying to change the behavior and learn and grow from that, and figure out the why. You as a parent, like you were saying, they may not be able to tell you the why, but you can problem solve through with them to figure out some of the why.
Well, and I think that's why those guiding questions, what happened? What were you thinking about? They probably haven't even thought about what they were thinking about.
How did it make you feel?
Not only how did it make you feel, how did it make everybody else in the family feel when you did this? How did it impact everyone? So I think that's just a huge takeaway. Active listening. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to have a little bit on that consequences. When you use the word consequence, it kind of scares me, myself. So when we manage our kids at home, we don't do consequences. We rather discuss with them, like what are the pros and cons, and it has to be either their way or our way or somewhere in the middle. Like we have to agree on something and then follow that. So we make sure kids also follow and we also follow. So, but consequences, I never enforced. So I don't know whether that's right or wrong.
You're kind of already doing it though.
We are discussing it.
Yeah, you're discussing it, but is there a follow through for what they did?
They normally follow. If we discuss and if we agree, they follow.
Does it change the behavior?
They do follow.
I mean, the end goal is to change the behavior.
And maybe the word is something that's uncomfortable,
Right.
but basically, so let's just say, I like the word consequence, but not everyone does. And so let's just say if you come to, like, if I'm the teacher and like, okay, everyone that comes and stands up here, I'm gonna give you a ticket. That's a consequence. Like, it's a good consequence. So, and if you don't come up, you don't get a ticket. So if you look at it kind of very just neutral, it's, you get something or you don't get something. It's not as negative sounding, but it is increasing that behavior for what you would like to, the outcome.
I mean, it's just like reinforcers. There's positive reinforcers, there's negative reinforcers, but there's still reinforcers. So basically that consequence is just that learning tool. How are you going to teach them? It's the learning tool you use to help it get in their head that this is the correct behavior. This is what you need to do. This is what you don't need to do. Yeah.
My daughter's teacher did make them do practice academies, so if they made a mistake,
Yes.
she would say, let's do
Yes.
a practice academy, and she would have them do it correctly, like several times to practice.
Yes.
And I took that home. I was like, I love that.
So do you do it at
I
home?
do it at home. I'm like,
It's
okay,
called
that
positive practice.
Yes.
It's a strategy.
And you know what? In essence,
That's what you're.
that's a consequence.
Mhm.
But it's just, so you're doing it. And again, get creative. Like I said, it doesn't have to be punitive. It doesn't have to be negative. The whole goal is we're gonna help them along the way so everybody can be successful. But you know what? If you don't clean your room, maybe we can practice cleaning your room.
They're not excited about it. They're
No.
like, okay, but they'll, you know.
But you only have to do it. Once you continue to follow through, you gain their trust. If you don't have that trust and they don't, and it, y'all, it's a good thing. Follow through is a good thing because just on the flip side, if you tell them you're going to do something, if you tell them we're gonna go to the mall or we're gonna go do this on Saturday after you've had a good week at school, that's a consequence. That's a follow through. So it all works together. But it takes time and it takes consistency. But it does not necessarily have to be a negative, bad thing. The end result is we want to help mold and shape them so that they can be successful.
But if you are going to say take something away,
Do it.
make sure you can do it. You know, like he was saying in the video, I'm going to cancel Christmas. Are you really ever going to do something
Well,
like that?
in the I don't know how that happened. There's two videos, but there's another video where they said that their son was not. He had. How many of y'all have kids with a ton of dishes in their room? You know what I'm talking about. And they said we're not washing these dishes, and they said they were actually eating out of the goldfish bowl because all the dishes were in his room. And he said, I'm not gonna come clean these dishes out of your room. And we see a scene of him with a big pan, lifting all the dishes and taking them out of his room because they were tired of eating they needed dishes because all the dishes were in his son's room. So that kid knows that if he holds out long enough, Dad's gonna come in and clean up all this mess because Dad showed him that. So, if we can find it, I'm going to find the other
I
one.
just said I'm gonna order more forks today.
Yes, yes. But if you say you're going to do it. You've got to follow through. So that's what builds the trust. Because on the flip side of that, when you say you're going to do something they really want, they know you'll follow through.
Mm-hmm.
You have to follow through. Okay, empathic listening. Most of it, as an adult, I hope that most of us have someone that we can go to talk to just work things through with, to listen to us. But y'all, I know that your kiddos don't show you this, but what they want more than anything is just someone to listen to them. And listen to them without judgment, and listen to them completely. A lot of times we may think we know what our kiddo said, but it may be way, way off. So you came home and you threw down all your books because you're mad at me for, I'm not good at thinking of examples. You came down and threw all your books and you were mad at me because you didn't have the snack you wanted after school. No, I'm mad because something happened at school and that's why I threw down my books. So make sure you know what's really going on. And you can only do that if you listen completely. How many times are we engaged in conversations and we're not listening completely? What are we doing? We're thinking about what we're gonna say. We're thinking about what we're gonna say next. I am so guilty of this. And so listening completely, putting everything down, putting all the distractions away, and just having that real conversation with them makes all the difference in the world. They may not say it, guys, but they need that. They need someone to listen. They need someone to place expectations for them. I told y'all I worked in middle school. I had a 7th grade student come to me, it was years ago. And he said, Miss, I wish my parents gave me rules at home. He literally said that, a 7th grade boy. Y'all, when you give them expectations, when you give them rules, that communicates to them that they're safe, that they're in a stable environment, and that they know what to expect. Do not be afraid to put some rules and some expectations in place, and if they don't meet them, follow through with something that's going to help them understand how their behavior impacted everybody else. Does that make sense? Okay. This was and just to bring that home, this was a survey they took of random 15-year-old kids. And so they said, the adults who get them, they asked, so the adults who get you, what is the number one thing they do? Look what's up there. Listen, it's not gives them privileges, it's not laughs at jokes, it's not, listen. And that's from kids. So just take that time to fully and completely listen. And it's gonna be hard at first and they're not gonna wanna talk. Keep at it. Keep at it. Don't give up. It's gonna take time. It's not gonna happen overnight. Because think about it. Your kids have been the way they have been since the day, for a long time. They formed these personalities. They formed these behaviors. They formed their way of doing things. It's not gonna change overnight. It's tough. But consistently, it will change. It just takes time. So don't give up. Don't give up too early. Okay, this is something that has changed a lot. It's called effective language. And what effective language does, it takes more of the defensiveness away. And so they don't feel like you're pointing your finger at them and you're blaming them and you're mad at them. You're going to tell them how it makes you feel when they do certain things. So I feel happy when you bring all your dishes in from your room to the kitchen, because I know that you're showing respect for this house. When you bring all the dishes in from your room to the sink in the kitchen, that makes me happy. That shows me that you respect our household expectations. Does that make sense? Instead of saying, man, why did you do that? You can't bring your dishes in from your room. Let them know, again, that connects with how their behavior affects everybody else. I feel disappointed when you don't clean up your mess in your room. That makes it hard. So again, kind of tying it back to how it makes you feel when they do certain things. And again, that helps them understand the impact of their behavior. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So this is another big one. There is a book by Dr. Ross Green called The Explosive Child. It is amazing. Amazing. So what Dr. Ross Green does, and you might check it out because it just gives a lot of really helpful tips. It was actually written for parents. So what he talks about in his book is what we call collaborative problem solving. And I don't have time to go through all of that, but in a nutshell, what that collaborative problem solving is you and your child together sitting down and working through and having your child be part of the solution and coming up with a solution. Because so many times, what was it? I want you to do it. Why? Because I said so. Y'all, we can't just say because I said so anymore. How's that working for y'all? Probably, it's tough. I know it didn't work for me too easily. So, what you're wanting to do is get on the same team. Ask them what's going on. How can we work through this together? They have to be part of that solution or it's not going to work. So there's certain things that are non-negotiables maybe. It may be a non-negotiable. So for non-negotiables, it is because I said so. But how many of y'all have, it's a non-negotiable. You can't go out in the freezing cold with shorts and a t-shirt on. That's a non-negotiable, okay? My son did it though, so I'll let him, I'm trying to, I know. How many of y'all have boys that go around, I know. You know what, that's a bad one, it's not non-negotiable, because I let him do it, I'm not gonna lie, forget it, I let him do it, and as a matter of fact, his best friend's mom was the school nurse, and so they both sat inside one day with Aaron's mom, the school nurse, because they were in shorts, and I wasn't gonna make him, so never mind, that's a bad one. Take that back, see, it's hard. What's a non-negotiable you have in your house?
Brushing your teeth.
Okay, and see, good
Showering.
luck. Good luck, because to me that would be it can wait for now. But if you're gonna die on the thing of brushing their teeth, then that's a non. But that might be. It could be something that would wait for later. That's a non-negotiable. Absolutely. There you go. See, we have a voice of reason. Okay.
Well, direct defiance.
Yes.
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 Serious rebellion.
Yes, absolutely. We have some non-negotiables that we're gonna put our foot down and we're gonna say, this is how it's gonna be. I'm not talking about the non-negotiables, but there are things that have a little bit of wiggle room that we can maybe wait till later. I'm gonna use brushing teeth. They can't go forever without brushing teeth, but are you gonna die on that hill of them brushing their teeth at this moment? So it's one of those, maybe you can wait for later. Now, if it continues and continues and continues, you're gonna have to address it. But it's kind of a pick your battles thing. So the gist of this collaborative problem solving is you get to the point where you can sit down together, you can come up with some solutions, you can both be happy. It can wait for a little bit. And so there probably are some things that you deal with that you can give a little bit of wiggle room. If you do that and empower your own children to make some decisions, it's gonna make things a lot better.
And every household is going to have different expectations.
Yes.
You were saying bring the dishes. We don't allow food in our bedrooms at our house.
Mm-hmm.
So very different expectations, right? And so you're also, if my child goes to your child's house, their expectations at somebody else's house is probably going to be different. So I frequently hear Susie's mom or Johnny's mom lets them do this, that we don't do social media. Our children don't have social media until they turn in high school. They get one social media. That's a personal thing for us. But I hear a lot, well, Susie's mom lets her have any social media. She has the TikTok. She has the Snapchat. And so you're going to have different rules. And so when you're talking about, the discipline, everybody has different expectations, and that's fine as long as you are clear with your expectations in your home and what are the non-negotiables, and make that really clear, and add some visuals if you've got lower learners. And those are things that if you're like, I don't know how to make those expectations, I'm happy to meet with you and we can work through that. If you need visuals, if you need help with some family rules and to problem solve what those non-negotiables might be, we can set up a meeting and work on that.
Well, and sometimes having someone from the outside
Right, absolutely.
who is not emotionally invested, because it's
Absolutely.
very emotional. Those are your children. And when you have someone from the outside come in and kind of mediate and work through that, it makes things a lot easier and a lot better for everyone.
Absolutely.
They listen better. I'll say them better.
Absolutely.
Yes,
I've-
yes, yes.
I've had
Oftentimes,
parents- yeah.
right?
I've had parents say, I want you to talk to my kid about this because I think they'll receive it better from you because you're somebody different. And I can, don't have that past relationship, and so it does make it a little bit easier sometimes.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, we're here to do what's best for your kids, and it may be they may have a teacher they can talk to. They may have someone else they can talk to.
We've got about 10 minutes.
Okay, real quick. Skip that.
Okay. We'll
Since we
let
have 10
we
minutes.
will send
Well,
this
you know
out
what? Go
in
ahead.
a
Go ahead.
parent square so you
So
can
this is just
watch
about-
and rewatch.
About having empathy for our kids.
So what is empathy and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here. And you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. At least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
It's all about the connection. And here's the other thing we need to remember. Your perspective, anybody's perspective is their reality, including our children's. So as skewed as their perspective may be, in their mind at that time, it's their reality. So it may seem like when they come to us with these issues or these problems, they seem so small and so insignificant. Well, at least you don't have to, you have a roof over your head. At least, we provide food for you. That's not, just empathy is putting yourself in their place and really trying to understand from their perspective. And I've just found that when I have empathy for my children, for my coworkers, just all the way around, it makes things a lot better. It makes things a lot easier. So just practicing that empathy with your kiddos and not being so quick to run to judgment about, why'd you do this? Hear them out first and put yourself in their shoes. Were you going to say something? Okay. All right. So again, having those structured, safe spaces at home where they can come to, thinking about for every correction you make, try to have 5 positives to back that up to kind of balance that out. Like you're here today, involve everybody, communicate with your teachers, communicate with these ladies who can offer some help. Y'all, we're all working through this together. Nobody has all the answers, but when we use each other, we can be a lot better for our kids. Oh my gosh, I have so much stuff, don't I?
It's okay. Keep going.
Okay. So those behaviors that are challenging, y'all, behavior does not occur in a vacuum. So figure out there was something that set that behavior in motion. So start looking at your children when they have those meltdowns, because I know none of your children have meltdowns at home, do they? Mine never did. That's funny. Okay? Mine had meltdowns all the time. I have a broken closet door where my son came home one time and slung his backpack. Okay? We all have meltdowns. But behavior doesn't occur inside a vacuum. What's the cause? What's the reason? Start to make notes of when did this happen? What time of the day? What happened before the behavior? What kind of set that behavior in motion? If you can find out what I hate to say trigger, but what was the thing that set that behavior in motion, you can be a lot more proactive about it. So we know that your child has a hard time getting up every morning, and when that alarm goes off, it's really tough. So what can you do to be a little bit more proactive? Maybe giving a few more warning, have some things in place to kind of lead up to that so that it's not as difficult. But find out what's kind of setting that behavior in motion, and then you can be a little bit more proactive about it. Teaching them those skills for coping. So when you have a hard day, when you have a bad day, what are some skills you can do? We can work on breathing, we can work on visuals, we can work on different things, but load them up with those skills.
And that's where a partnership piece is really going to come in handy for you as parents, because your teachers are using some, level of self-regulation skills, coping skills. They're teaching, and your child may not be communicating what type of skills they're using or being taught at school, but reach out to your classroom teachers, your case managers, and say, hey, I need some ideas. We are probably going to run a little bit over. I know that some of you may be needing to leave. We will send a full recording of this out to you. If you are needing to leave early, if you will please scan the QR codes that are in the back of the room. There's one on the back door. There's a couple in the back. And please give us feedback from this meeting. And so that way our team looks at that so that we can, learn and grow as well and make sure we are meeting your needs. So, but we are going to run a little bit over. We hope you'll stay with us. But if you're needing to hop out, please just scan that QR code on your way out. All right. And I'm going to let you keep going.
Okay, keep going. Think about it. Why are your children challenging? Why do we have these challenges? And again, I use this in school. I'll say, a lot of times we don't get upset. We don't get frustrated when a student doesn't know how to read or doesn't know how to write. It's like, okay, well here, let me keep working at it. We're going to get it. But when our children behave in a way that we don't find acceptable, it's hard, especially when they're our own children, not to get upset and not to really take that to heart. But if you can think of it in a different way, what skills are they lacking? What's getting in their way of helping them be successful? And when you can really drill down and kind of find what some of those things are, it makes things a lot better. It helps you have a different outlook, and it helps you not to be so upset and take it so personally. But we're thinking about what skills, what self-regulation skills, what coping skills can we put in place for them that are consistent so that when they have a bad day, they have a foundation to grow on. Okay, don't wrestle with a pig. I'm from West Texas, so this is, you can tell by the way I talk. Don't wrestle with a pig. You'll both get dirty, but the pig will enjoy it. Make sense? Sometimes getting all of that, they love it. It's like the briar patch. So just remember that. So what are some things that maybe trigger or set that behavior in motion for your kiddos? Obviously not getting what they want, not doing what they want, not being able to regulate what's going on. Why do you think they have candy at the checkout? Y'all, it's the best marketing strategy ever. Because what happens? There's candy at the checkout. We've all seen it in the grocery store, okay? So think about those triggers. What sets that behavior in motion? Then you can be a little bit more proactive. Okay. Behavior is just another form of communication. Let that sink in. Behavior is just another form of communication. So what is their behavior communicating to you? What do they need? What is missing? What can we help fill them up with to help them through all those struggles? Okay, we're going to talk, I'm going to end with just some, when they do have meltdowns, what are some things you can do, hopefully to de-escalate them and to bring them down? You can't say you're not in trouble if they're not in trouble. But here's what I found. A lot of times if you have on your mind that you're in trouble and all these bad things are going to happen and your kiddo thinks, oh my gosh, this is what I did, I'm fixing to be in trouble. I've got my blue card signed at school. I'm gonna come home and I'm gonna be in even more trouble. And they're all worked up and they're all anxious. And you just say, you're not in trouble. What do? I've seen it happen so many times. It doesn't work if they're in trouble. But there's times they're not in trouble. Just saying, you're not in trouble. I'm not upset with you. I just want to help you work through this and find a better way. Can we do that together? Sometimes just those few words, and there it is again, what happened? Instead of why, what happened? So those are some things when they come home and they've had a hard day at school, maybe some things you can pull out of your pocket.
I just want to say on that point, I always try to put myself as, if my boss ever says, I need to talk to you, I do initially think, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? And I don't think that goes away, like, forever. Even if I know I didn't do anything wrong, my initial instinct is, oh my gosh, why does she want to talk to me? And just think, you're your kids' bosses. So if they're like, I want to talk to you, even if you're like, hey, I just want to talk to you, that initial anxiety kind of comes up. And so in the classroom, I'll say, I need to talk to you in the hall. You're not in trouble. I need your help with something. And those statements, and I will tell my boss, I need you to tell me, like, you need to talk to me and I'm not in trouble and everything's fine and you just need my help with something. And so I just feel like, you know, you were talking about perspective taking. Just think every time you say that to your kid, you're your kid's boss, and how would you feel if your boss came to you and said that? What would that make come up in you to be like, okay, what would I want my boss to calm me down and be like, everything's fine, I just need you to help me with something. And when I say help, then we get to say we're collaborative and you're a part. And that seems to be better, at least for me, too.
Everybody, you know your own kids better than anybody else. And when you can sense that they're frustrated, they come, and I'm using coming home from school, they come home from school and you can just tell they're really frustrated, they're really anxious, they're really upset. Hey, what do you want to have for dinner tonight? When are we gonna, do you want to go to Walmart? Just something to get them off of there. It irritates me to no end. My husband does this to me all the time. And I know he's doing it and it aggravates me. I was like, no, I want to talk about it, but he's the master of it. So just distract them. Talk about something else. Try to get their mind off of that and see if that'll help. Next one. offering them choices. Y'all, our children, think about it. How many choices do they really have in their life? Not too many. I mean, maybe they can decide what they're gonna wear, they can maybe pack their lunch, but think about it. They don't have a lot of really opportunities to make true choices. Give them choices. So you know what? You can clean up your room now, or you can clean it up in an hour. Does it really matter? You can clean up your room now, or you can clean it up, or you can throw the practice academy in kind of. You can clean it up now, or you can clean it up when we go to do some, I mean, you're gonna go do something fun, or you can clean it up when everybody goes to Target. What do you wanna do? Give them choices. Give them choices. Let them feel like they have some investment, some choices, some voice in what you're doing. If they feel like they're included and a part, they're gonna have a lot better response if you're not just dictating to them every single thing. Give them choices. Give them options. Do you want Fritos for your lunch, or do you want Doritos? Just give them choices. I'm telling you, it makes a huge, huge difference.
And some kids can handle 2 choices, some kids can handle 4 choices. So getting to know where your child is at with that. A lot of times you hear about their, like, an accommodation might be minimizing answer choices, right? Maybe your child only has 2, maybe your child has 3, maybe your child has 4. Maybe you can say, give the open-ended. What would you like to do? But a lot of our kids need that minimization of just the 2 options.
Again, same thing. Be predictable. Be consistent. That doesn't mean you're a robot, but it means that they know that you are going to follow through with what you say. Either positive or not so positive. They know if you say we're gonna go to the water park, we're gonna go to the water park. They also know if you say, both ends of it, they know what you're going to follow through. Okay. Let them have time and space to figure things out for themselves. Y'all, if we do not let our kids fail, let them fail. If you don't let them fail now, they're gonna end up failing at another point when maybe you're not there to catch them and to support them. My daughter is a very good student, and I'll never forget her first B she got. I was so happy. I was so happy she got that B, because I needed to teach her that it's not always gonna be the same thing, and you can work through it. If they don't figure, that's why you need to be telling them no. That's why you need to let them struggle. They've got to figure things out for themselves. If they mess up, it's okay, but let them figure some things out. And yes.
Well, just something that I encounter in transition meetings at the high school level a lot is we have such great parents that do just want to support students so much and, you know, do such a great job of that. But when they go to college, you know, the students are just at a loss, you know, and parents are like, well, I'm gonna go to their meetings in college. No, you're not. There's not meetings, you're not going, it's not happening, you know, and that's just really the truth of the matter. And so, and I'm not saying you can't ever, and the students can invite you, but students become independent, and they're not gonna tell you, and they don't have to tell you, and so they need to learn to navigate those. It's so much safer to fail in high school than it is in college, and they need to learn to fight those battles in high school. They need to learn to communicate with those teachers. Instead of you writing an email to those teachers, your student needs to be writing an email to those teachers. They can CC you for support, but the more of that guidance that you can offer to them to earn that independence and learn to communicate and feel that empowerment, you know, in high school, it will follow them through college and make a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. That's what, let them fail now. Yes, ma'am.
This may be hard to answer, but on this, let's say they need a break, cooling off.
Okay, okay.
Okay, we have like a 9 and 11-year-old. What's a reasonable length of cooling after we've just thrown a fit about, I don't wanna do my homework kind of a thing? You know, and it's just, escalated to where, okay, just, breathe and think about it, but you do have to do this.
Right, and I think,
Okay, and it's like, okay, so then after 5 minutes, I'm still not, gonna do it.
I'd probably, me personally, I'd probably wait about 30 minutes, at least. And I know that gets tough when,
We're running out of time.
cause
not
it's
gonna be time
bedtime,
for
I
bed.
know, and so it's, but, okay, what if they don't, what's gonna happen if they don't do their homework?
Apparently the teachers are real tolerant, and then we still sit with that 0 and we didn't learn it. That's what we're worried about.
Gotcha.
More zeros.
Yeah.
More 50s.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, maybe the consequence would be, but if your child, that doesn't bother them, that does make it a little bit more difficult when that's not an
There
impacting
seems to
them.
be no consequence, is
Right.
kind of what I'm seeing.
Right. And maybe get creative, maybe there's some other privileges that, and flip it. Here's what I would do, flip it, reward them for doing it. So if you have kids that are really fighting you, okay, they're not doing it now, so, hey, you know what, we're gonna have a chart, and every day, if you come home today, every day this week and do your homework, then on Friday, you're gonna have this reward. Give them, flip it, and give them something positive to work for. And just see if that works. And there's some things, there's another book called Tough Kid Toolbox. Tough, T-O-U-G-H, Kid Toolbox. And it has a lot of resources in it that you could do for those rewards types of things, for communicating with parents, with teachers, all of that. And look through here, I would flip it and make it a reward instead of something they're dreading. So if you can come home by this time every day and complete all your homework, and you know what, in the beginning, you may just do that for a day or two. They may not can wait all week. Some of our kids, they need that more of an instant reward. So you might break it down even more and say, you know what, if you can do this every day, when you finish your homework, you'll get this small reward. And if you do it every day successfully, then on Friday, we'll have a big reward.
And
Got it.
collaborate with your child's case manager, or if it's a specific class, let's say they're a middle schooler and it's math class, communicate with that math teacher on what kind of in-class rewards. Communicate, y'all. We are here to help you. If it is taking 2 hours to do an assignment at home, how can we help you? Does your child need more accommodations, or are they just being defiant? Do they need a reward system at home and at school? How can we partner with you to help alleviate some of these significant behaviors? So reach out to your case manager. Reach out to me. I'm happy to help you and see who do you need to partner with to get these behaviors under control.
Man, when you have parents and teachers on the same page, y'all, we can move mountains when you do that.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to reach out. That's what we're here for.
And a lot of times that's needed. A lot of times you're having to have positive reinforcement at home, positive reinforcement at school, and then that might need to fade because we might be getting to the high school and saying, hey, this is no longer, I'm not giving you a piece of candy every time you do it. It's now an expectation, right? But we've got to maybe give a short-term frequent reinforcement in the beginning to curb that behavior until we are able to make it an expectation.
You've got to start somewhere. So it's just like you said, the goal is to wean them off. The goal is that they're not gonna be on there forever. But you've got to start somewhere.
And it's good when you start in elementary and middle school when you're talking about the homework pieces, because the consequence of the failure and those levels are not as significant as a failure in high school.
Right. Good question. Good question. Help them. Just help them. Sometimes, y'all, we get stuck, and it's like you just think about it. If you have a task that's so overwhelming and so daunting, and I'm the one, I'll put it off. If you just help them a little bit, just give a little bit, and that can go such a long way. I'll help you. You know what? We're cleaning up the kitchen. I'll do this part. You do that part. Just help them. Be a part of it. We're in a marathon, guys, not a sprint. We're parents for our entire lives, even when our children grow and go off. And the end goal is that we have raised good humans who love us, who we love, and who do well and are successful. But it takes a team, it takes a village. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help. I think that's the biggest thing. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We're in this together. We're all in it together. Okay, and then I'm just gonna end with this and we'll be done. Thank y'all. I'm sorry I went a few minutes over.
The Pencil's Tale. Once upon a time, an old pencil maker took his newest pencil aside, just before he was about to pack him into a box. Imagining the little fellow as a person, he recalled a few things about the pencil. "There are 5 things you need to know," he said to his pencil. "Before I send you out into the world, always remember these 5 things. Never forget them. And you will become the best pencil you can be. The first thing is to remember that you will be able to do many great things, but only if you put yourself in someone else's hands. From time to time, you will experience a painful sharpening, but remember that this will make you a better pencil. Also, keep in mind that you will be able to correct any mistakes you might make along the way. And the most important part of you is what's on the inside. And remember this as well. Upon every surface that you are used, you must leave your mark. No matter what else happens, you must continue to write." It seemed the pencil listened to him and promised he would remember these 5 things so that he could live his life with heart and purpose. You see, in your life, put yourself in someone else's hand. Embrace challenges for growth. Learn from mistakes. Value inner qualities. And leave a positive mark on the world. And you too can become the best pencil there is. This was The Pencil's Tale, and this is Dare to Do Motivation. Thank you so much for watching, and stay blessed.
That's all we want for our kids, right? Just to be successful.